Libra, dear heart, what if I told you that a hidden truth is about to strike like lightning, not to break you, but to release you? That something is coming unexpected, undeniable, and it will shake your emotional core in a way you didn't see coming. This is your sacred wake-up call. Today's reading is not just another horoscope. This is a soul activation. You've been pulled here, not by chance, but by the magnetic force of divine timing. There's a reason why you clicked. There's a reason you're here at this exact moment, because the universe is about to reveal something that could change how you see everything. Maybe you've felt it lately, that tightness in your chest, those subtle signs, the sleepless nights, the invisible pressure building. Your intuition has been whispering, but soon, something or someone will speak a truth aloud. One that you can't unhear. And it might feel like a punch to the heart. But listen closely, this is not punishment. It's liberation. The walls you've built around yourself for balance, for peace, for the sake of others are about to crack open. And when they do, you will remember who you truly are beneath the harmony you've been trying so hard to hold together. At Zodiac Whisper Tarot, we don't just read cards. We translate energy. We tell the truth your soul already knows. And today, the cards are clear: a revelation is coming. It may arrive in a message, a conversation, or a silence that suddenly says too much. This is the moment the Libra within you will be tested. Will you continue to preserve the peace that keeps you stuck? Or will you finally honor your own truth, even if it shifts the scales? Because let's be honest, how many times have you smiled to keep things calm, while your spirit screamed for clarity? How long have you avoided choosing, so you wouldn't have to lose? And how much longer can you hide from the voice inside that's begging you to choose yourself first? I want to take a moment to thank you truly for being here. Your presence matters. Every time you like, share, comment, or subscribe, you help spread these healing messages to souls just like yours. You make this space sacred. And it means everything. So if something within you is already stirring, if you feel seen, shaken, or even silently called out, let that be confirmation that this message is for you. Type in the comments right now, "I'm ready to face the truth my soul has always known." Let's speak it out. Let's name it. Because the moment you do, the healing begins. Stay with me until the very end, Libra, because what the universe is about to reveal will not only realign your path, it will return you to yourself. And I promise you will never see your past, your pain, or your potential the same way again. ChatGPT.noi. There are moments in life when something seemingly small, a message, a glance, a single sentence, lands with the weight of 1,000 realizations. It pierces through your balance, your composure, your carefully constructed calm. Libra, this is one of those moments. And what feels like a sudden storm, what looks on the surface like just a conversation or only a coincidence, is actually the mirror you've been avoiding for far too long. The appearance of the Justice card at the very start of your reading is no accident. This is your card, your archetype. But justice, while often imagined as a still, impartial force, is never passive. It slices with clarity. It reveals what's been hidden, and it demands alignment not with what looks good, but with what is true. And for you, Libra, the truth has been sitting quietly in the background, waiting for permission to speak. That's where the Two of Swords comes in. This card doesn't represent a lack of knowing, it represents the act of not wanting to know. You've likely felt torn for some time, pulled between two truths, the one that keeps the peace and the one that costs it. But silence has its own cost. And your heart has been paying the price in quiet restlessness, in emotional fatigue, in the ache of pretending everything's fine when you know deep down it isn't. The High Priestess confirms this. She doesn't speak loudly, she doesn't fight for attention. She whispers, and only those willing to listen inwardly can truly hear her. You've heard that whisper, haven't you? That subtle nudge in your gut, that quiet thought you've dismissed again and again? This is the week where that whisper becomes a wave, where you're no longer allowed to pretend not to see what your soul has known all along. There's a reason you've been avoiding it. As a Libra, your deepest desire is for equilibrium, not just within yourself, but in the energy you create with others. You're often the peacemaker, the harmonizer, the one who smooths over what's rough and carries burdens so others can breathe easier. But sometimes, keeping the peace with others means creating chaos inside yourself. And no soul, not even one as graceful as yours, can hold that imbalance forever. Self-help wisdom teaches us that confrontation doesn't have to be violent. Truth doesn't have to be harsh to be honest. Sometimes, the most powerful step toward healing is simply to admit, this isn't working for me anymore. And that admission, as simple as it sounds, can be the most courageous act of self-respect you'll ever make. You were not meant to live in emotional limbo. You were not born to walk on eggshells. Your voice, your clarity, your boundaries are not disruptions, they are instruments of harmony when used in truth. You may fear that speaking up or facing this revelation will cause things to break apart. But what if the thing that breaks is the illusion? What if the truth, though sharp at first, is what finally sets your heart at ease? Remember, even divine guidance doesn't force its way in. It offers, gently, and waits for you to choose. And the wisdom handed down through centuries reminds us, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. And you, Libra, deserve what is real. So if something or someone delivers a truth this week, even if it catches you off guard, even if it unravels the image you've tried so hard to hold, don't turn away. This is not a collapse. It's a clearing. It's your return to center. And you don't have to fear the storm when you remember, your peace is no longer something you maintain by silence, it's something you create by standing in your truth. ChatGPT de NOI. Sometimes the hardest truth isn't what others reveal to us, it's what we've been hiding from ourselves. And Libra, if the energy right now feels heavy in your chest, like something pressing against your heart, it's because that's exactly where this transformation is starting. Not in your mind. Not in your environment. But deep within the space you've been protecting the longest, your emotional center. What you're feeling isn't weakness. It's a release. A quiet unraveling of the silence you've kept in the name of love, in the name of peace, in the name of keeping everything around you from falling apart. But in doing that, you've built a cage around your truth. And the time has come to unlock it. The Lover's card in this reading speaks of a decision that reaches far beyond romance. This is a moment that challenges your alignment. You're being asked to choose between staying loyal to an outdated version of connection, one where you shrink to fit someone else's needs, or stepping into a more honest, liberated expression of who you are. And with that choice comes discomfort. Because choosing yourself, even when you love someone, isn't easy. But it is essential. Layered with this is the Queen of Cups, a deeply feeling, profoundly intuitive presence. Her gift is her emotional sensitivity, but her shadow is self-sacrifice. When this card shows up, it's a message that your heart has been carrying more than it should. You've been absorbing too much the moods of others, their expectations, their disappointments, all while hiding your own. And while your compassion is your strength, it was never meant to cost you your voice. Healing, in its purest form, is not loud or dramatic. It begins subtly with a breath. I often recommend starting with heart-centered breathing. Place your hand over your chest. Close your eyes. Inhale slowly, imagining the air moving in and out of your heart. With each breath, remind yourself, I am allowed to feel. I am allowed to speak. I am allowed to choose myself. Then, take a journal or even just a piece of paper and begin to write the things you've never said out loud. The truths you buried under, I'm fine. The questions you were too afraid to ask. The things you wanted to scream but turned into a smile instead. You don't have to share it with anyone. This is for you. For the you who's ready to come back home to honesty. In numerology, the repeated presence of the numbers 2 and 6 is significant right now. The number 2 represents duality and the pressure of decision-making, especially when it involves the emotional body. It mirrors the pull you feel between two choices, two identities, or two emotional truths. The number 6 is the number of compassion, family, harmony, but also the number of responsibility and emotional labor. Together, they tell a story. You're being asked to balance caring for others with finally caring for yourself. It's okay to be afraid of the ripple effects that honesty can bring. But sometimes, what looks like heartbreak is really the heart cracking open just wide enough for your real life to begin. And if you feel overwhelmed right now, remind yourself of this gentle truth. You were never asked to carry love alone. You are not required to abandon yourself to be loved. True connection asks for truth, not performance. And you are worthy of being known for who you really are, even if your truth makes someone else uncomfortable. So if your heart is hurting today, don't rush to fix it. Sit with it. Honor it. Let the ache be a sign that you're coming back into alignment. You are not breaking. You are beginning again. And this time, you get to lead with truth. There comes a turning point when the emotional weight you've been carrying no longer feels like something you can hold. And not because you're weak, Libra, but because you've outgrown the version of yourself that thought holding it all was your responsibility. That version of you, the one who bent to keep the peace, who withheld truth to protect others, who made self-sacrifice a quiet art form, is now stepping aside. What's rising in its place is not a rebellion, but a rebirth. When the Judgment card appears twice in a reading, it's not just a message, it's a mandate. It's a clear echo through your life that something has completed, and something new is ready to be claimed. But here's the key: this awakening doesn't ask for more effort. It asks for more truth. And the truth is, you've been evolving quietly behind the scenes for a long time. Now, that inner shift is ready to be reflected in the life you choose on the outside. No more people-pleasing. No more contorting yourself to fit into roles that don't honor your voice. No more mistaking silence for love, or politeness for connection. That's not peace, it's performance. And you've already paid enough in emotional currency for that illusion. The Queen of Swords comes forward now as your reflection, poised, clear, and unafraid to draw boundaries without over-explaining them. She doesn't need to yell or defend her truth. Her clarity speaks for itself. She reminds you that maturity isn't about becoming harder, it's about becoming more precise. And emotional clarity doesn't make you cold, it makes you clean. For someone like you, who values grace and harmony, stepping into this version of yourself may feel unfamiliar at first. But let it be. Because in truth, this version of you is the most liberating one yet. Energetically, what's happening here is a clearing. When we raise our standards not in ego, but in alignment, the law of attraction shifts in real time. What no longer serves begins to fall away. Not out of punishment, but out of resonance. What once fit you will start to feel heavy. And what once comforted you will now feel confining. That is not loss. That is calibration. The Six of Pentacles affirms this process. It promises that the energy you've poured out in good faith, the love you gave freely, the support you offered without expectation is coming back. Often, not in the same form, but in the right form. The universe is generous, but it moves in cycles. And this moment marks the return phase of your efforts. You're not just giving now, you're ready to receive. Not because you demanded it, but because you finally believe you deserve it. And perhaps, above all, this is what this stage of your journey is really about: worthiness. The quiet, unwavering belief that you are worthy of boundaries. Worthy of truth. Worthy of a love that doesn't require self-abandonment. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't need to earn rest, peace, or clarity. They're your natural state, and now you're remembering how to return to them. Sometimes the most powerful shift isn't what we do, it's what we stop doing. And in your case, Libra, what you're stopping now is the habit of making yourself small to keep everything else intact. That habit is over. And just like the gentle wisdom we often hear in sacred teachings, you don't need to explain your growth to anyone. You only need to walk in it. Quietly, clearly, and completely. Because your life isn't asking for permission anymore, it's asking for presence. There's a quiet kind of strength that comes not from shouting your truth, but from no longer needing to defend it. Libra, this is the energy you're stepping into now, not the performance of peace, but the embodiment of it. You've spent so long adapting, adjusting, and shape-shifting in the name of love, harmony, and connection. But now, something within you is ready to say, I don't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to minimize who I am to be accepted. I don't have to twist myself into someone else's version of lovable. The King of Swords arrives in your reading at exactly the right time, not as a cold authority figure, but as a symbol of elevated discernment. He doesn't move from impulse or insecurity, he moves from clarity. This card is about knowing what you value and then aligning your actions with those values, even if it means breaking away from what once felt familiar. It's not about being hard, it's about being exact. He reminds you that when emotions feel overwhelming or when old dynamics try to pull you back into old roles, you now have the tools, the inner logic, the personal boundaries, and the mental clarity to respond from truth, not trauma. And after the internal storm you've weathered, the star shows up not just as hope, but as evidence that your light has survived. In astrology, the star is often associated with healing after destruction. It is the moment where the heart stops bracing for impact and begins to exhale into possibility again. You may still be tender. You may still be tired. But deep within you, there's a flicker that's grown steadier with every hard choice you've made. That flicker is your new direction. That flicker is you not as someone seeking approval, but as someone radiating from within. This is the space where transformation becomes tangible. One of the most powerful shifts you can make now is to design your life not around what others expect from you but around what feels honest for you. That might mean changing your schedule to create more space. It might mean restructuring a relationship. It might mean letting go of outdated dreams that no longer reflect your present truth. Whatever it looks like, the essence is the same. You're finally choosing what's real over what's rehearsed. To support this shift, consider grounding practices that align your body with your intention. The warrior pose in yoga isn't just about strength, it's about direction. It teaches your body what it feels like to stand your ground. Writing a letter of forgiveness to yourself is another act of reclamation, not to erase the past, but to honor the version of you who didn't know how to choose differently yet still carried love with grace. Even colors carry frequency. Surround yourself this week with sapphire blue to support your truth-telling, silver white to cleanse lingering emotional fog, and soft golden tones to symbolize your rebirth. These aren't just aesthetic choices, they're energetic cues to your subconscious that you're ready to live in your truth, without apology. As we move forward from this place of emotional honesty, remember what sacred wisdom teaches us: love doesn't ask you to disappear. It asks you to reveal. You were never meant to hide your light to be accepted. You were meant to let it shine so that the ones who are meant to walk with you can see you clearly and come closer. Your only task now is to continue showing up as the person you've quietly become. And the right people, the right opportunities, the right love, they'll meet you where you are, not where you used to pretend to be. It's remarkable how endings don't always come with dramatic farewells or crashing closure. Sometimes, they arrive with a whisper, a quiet moment where you realize you've outgrown the struggle, the silence, or the version of yourself you've been trying to maintain. Libra, this isn't about breaking free from something external anymore. It's about releasing the internal narratives that kept you bound to patterns that were never truly yours. When the World card appears, it marks more than a conclusion. It signifies the completion of a karmic loop and the readiness for something entirely new. This card holds the energy of fulfillment, not because everything becomes perfect, but because everything that needed to be understood has been seen with open eyes and an open heart. You've walked through the emotional landscape, the tightrope of people-pleasing, the weight of unspoken truths, the ache of choosing silence when you long to speak. And now, you find yourself here, not wounded, but wiser. Not empty, but clear. And maybe for the first time, you are giving yourself permission to decide what comes next, not based on fear or expectation, but based on what feels right in your body, in your rhythm, in your soul. This isn't just spiritual theory, it's deeply practical. Growth becomes real when it shows up in the choices you make every day. So ask yourself honestly, what are the 3 things you will no longer tolerate, not from others, but from yourself? What outdated expectations are you still carrying? What obligations are you honoring out of guilt rather than truth? Let this be your moment to write new rules for your heart, ones that reflect who you are now, not who you had to be in order to survive. The transition from hiding to expressing, from doubting to knowing, from sacrificing to standing tall, it doesn't happen all at once. But with every small act of courage, you are shaping a new identity, one built on self-respect, clarity, and conscious choice. And the beauty of this moment lies in its simplicity. You don't have to overhaul your entire life in a day. You just have to start choosing differently, choosing with intention, choosing with kindness toward yourself, choosing as someone who finally believes they are worthy of leading their life, not just managing it. When we speak of divine wisdom not in dogma but in principle, it often reminds us that we are not here to ask permission to be whole. We are not required to wait for someone else to tell us we're allowed to feel joy, or peace, or pride in who we've become. The journey you've walked through wasn't a detour. It was the path that refined you. And now that the cycle has closed, there's nothing more to prove. If you feel the urge to pause right now and reflect, honor it. Take a few deep breaths. Center yourself in this truth. You are not the same person who began this chapter. You have shed the old armor. You have reclaimed your voice. And most importantly, you've stopped apologizing for your growth. Let the world meet you as you are now, open, awake, unapologetically radiant. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that no longer fits. You don't need approval to start again. You are the author now. And this new chapter? It begins exactly where you are. With honesty. With choice. With freedom. Dear Libra, if you've made it this far into the video, it's because a deeper part of you already knows the truth that's been trying to rise to the surface is not here to destroy you. It's here to free you. Maybe it doesn't feel like liberation just yet. Maybe right now, it still feels like heartbreak. Like confusion. Like being shattered by a truth you tried to ignore. But even in this moment of vulnerability, there is something extraordinary unfolding. You are meeting yourself with full honesty, maybe for the first time in a very long time. And in that meeting, your healing begins. You don't need to keep performing strength for others, Libra. You don't need to keep smiling through the weight of silence, or agreeing just to avoid conflict. The version of you that had to do that has done her job. She protected you. She helped you survive. But this new version of you? She's here to thrive. And thriving starts when you stop betraying yourself for the comfort of others. When we say the truth will set you free, we don't mean it will be easy. We mean it will be real. And what's real, even when it hurts, is always more empowering than a life built on pretense. This pain, this reckoning, this awakening, it is not your end. It is the burning away of everything that no longer matches the vibration of who you've become. And yes, Libra, it may bring tears. But they will be tears of release, not regret. Because deep down, you've always known, you were never meant to live inside a shell that keeps your light dim. You were meant to shine. Unapologetically. Boldly. Gently. But entirely as yourself. So, what will you choose now that the illusions are gone? Will you continue to shrink to make others comfortable? Or will you rise, in the fullness of who you are, and walk into the life that's always been waiting for you? I invite you to take a breath and ask yourself, what have I been pretending not to know? And now that I know it, what's the next brave choice I can make for myself? If you feel ready to reclaim your power, I want you to write this in the comments right now. I no longer pretend. I am mean, I am worthy. These words aren't just affirmations. They are a declaration to the universe that your rebirth has begun. Let this be your moment of commitment. And if this message stirred something in your soul, if it gave you clarity, comfort, or courage, please like this video so it can reach others who need to hear what you just heard. Share it with someone you care about, and don't forget to subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot so you'll never miss another divine message crafted just for you. Libra, your time of pretending is over. Your time of awakening has begun. And the version of you who's emerging? She's not here to ask for permission anymore. She's here to lead her own life with truth, with strength, and with deep, unshakable self-love. You are free now. Walk forward like you know it.